Hi everybody, Dana Sparks, broker of Maximum One Greater Atlanta Realtors, and today's contract tip, we are continuing on with the changes to the 2021 GAR contract. This is a change I don't remember. I couldn't find it in the previous video, but I've taught a lot of classes on this, so I know I've covered it in classes, but just wanted to bring it to your attention as a video. This contract tip has to do with a co-op agent's commission. In other words, this is a couple of new paragraphs or subparagraphs in the 2021 seller brokerage engagement that has to do with a listing broker, their agreement, their contract with the seller to share the commission that the seller offers with a co-op agent / broker, really broker, who is representing a buyer. So I want to point out specifically this part of the listing agreement or seller's brokerage agreement and have a little bit of a discussion regarding co-op commission and a little bit about that. So in the 2021 GAR contract exclusive seller brokerage engagement agreement, it is Form F101. Under paragraph A, this is where you fill in the blanks, and then the corresponding paragraph B is where it describes it. But actually, the Georgia Association of REALTORs does a really good job describing everything in paragraph A. So in paragraph A, for the fill in the blank section under paragraph 4, it talks about commission. And 4A states the seller agrees, again, this is the listing agreement. The seller agrees to pay the broker, meaning the listing broker or the seller's broker, the following commission at the closing of any contract to sell for the property. And then it has a percentage of the sale price, a flat fee, or other. Then paragraph 4B states broker agrees to pay cooperating broker, if any, a percent, a flat fee, or other. That has not changed. The terminology changed a little bit, but that has not changed. Basically, public seller pays their broker, the listing broker, a total amount of commission. Then the listing broker agrees to share part of that total getting from the seller with a broker who is representing a buyer, if there is one. So when just in general, when filling out those blanks, the percentage or the dollar fee in section 4A needs to be a larger amount than the amount in 4B. If it's the same amount, that means the listing broker is not getting any. None of that has changed other than the terminology. Here is what GAR has added. Paragraph A4C. Commission adjustment to the cooperating broker. There may be circumstances where the seller's broker shall not pay the cooperating broker the commission referenced above in 4AB. These circumstances and the commission that shall be paid in such circumstances are as follows. And then you fill in the blank for what those circumstances will be. So, a couple of things. You guys have seen in the MLS service where it will have a percentage or flat fee. Typically, we see mostly a percentage of the sale price that a co-op broker, a broker representing a buyer, can expect to receive for commission should they be the procuring cause of sale. Then in the private remarks, it has a statement that says something along the lines, there's a whole variety of issues or variety of circumstances, but a lot of the times what we see is a private comment that states, should you, meaning the broker working with the buyer, not be in attendance the first time the buyer sees the property, the co-op commission shall be Y rather than X that was listed under the co-op commission in the MLS service. So bottom line is a seller must agree to what happens to their money. So that it has always been the case that needs to be agreed upon between the public seller and the seller's broker or the listing broker. The issue has been, well, a lot of times that has just been addressed as a special stipulation. The issue has been, there's been concern previously that has been changed, so forth and so on, and I don't know if the seller knows it, and I need to see it in the listing agreement. Well, a lot of listing brokers are not going to share their confidential client contract with their seller. And the issue really is that it really was not necessarily included as a special stipulation in the listing agreement. So now GAR has created a fill in the blank so you can address that concern right up front. Couple of things. Number one, the seller must agree what happens to their money, to the total commission that gets offered to a buyer's broker. Number two, if you are going to change the commission, if you as the listing broker are going to change the commission, well, let me even back up from that. There is nothing that says that the amount of total commission that a seller agrees to pay their own broker has to be shared with a co-op broker. Co-op broker, if you're working with a buyer, there's another place where you can get paid for your services on the buyer brokerage agreement. Number one. Number two, if a seller's broker does agree to share the commission that the seller pays, there's nothing that says that the total amount of commission or dollars that the public seller agrees to pay their broker has to be split 50-50 with a broker working with a buyer. It can be a 70-30 split, 60-40, 80-20. It does not, there's nothing that says it has to be 50-50. So you buyer's brokers, how do you know what commission to expect when you go show a home? Well, when you are a member of a cooperating brokerage that is a member, if you guys are both members of an MLS service, then the information in the MLS service is what you can reasonably expect to receive as a commission payment should you be the procuring cause of sale. However, it can be as long as there is notification or disclosure up front that amount of co-op commission can be varied or variable. That term should mean something to you. I'll get to that in a second. Then you are on notice when you show that because you are a member of MLS and you show that property and that disclosure has been made to you in the private remarks. You are on notice that your commission from what is shown as the actual co-op fee percent may change. And there is an article, let me see if I can find it. There is, hang on one second. There is an article by Seth Weisman. Now, this was back in 2001 when buyer brokerage first came about and Beretta laws first came about, but regarding the procuring cause of sale. And in that article, basically, Seth explains that listing a property in an MLS service does actually constitute a contractual offer to cooperate with all other members of that MLS service and pay them the specified commission if they are the procuring cause of sale. So again, couple things, couple caveats. Number one, you listing brokers, if you are going to vary the rate of commission based on a certain circumstance, there are a couple of things you need to do. Number one, you need to get your seller's agreement in the listing in the new seller brokerage agreement, GAR Form F101. Number 2, you must disclose this information up front in an MLS service if the property is listed in MLS with a couple things. Under VRC, which stands for Variable Rate Commission, you absolutely must mark yes. I go into a full explanation of that in the 3-hour CE class I teach on this. I'm not going to go into that full explanation here in this video, but you must mark yes to VRC, which stands for Variable Rate Commission, meaning the commission amount in the MLS that's advertised blank percent can vary based on certain circumstances. Third thing you have to do is in the private remarks, you must explain what that circumstance is when the co-op agent, co-op broker, the broker representing the buyer, can expect a different or a varied rate of commission other than what you had as a percent. Now, not only that, you guys, there is license law involved as well. And what license law states is, that in order to, before you can change or alter or modify another broker's commission, you must get their written permission. So let me read you the license law on that. So the license law under regarding the commission is under the Unfair Trade Practices, OCGA 43-40-25B, subparagraph 35. It is a violation of license law, or it is an unfair trade practice, to induce any person to alter, modify, or change another licensee's fee or commission for real estate brokerage services without that licensee's prior written consent. So guess what? If your broker is a member of MLS and that is disclosed under variable rate commission being marked yes, and under the private remarks where it describes the condition, then before you show that house, you are agreeing, that is the contract, you are agreeing to the change in commission. Listing agents, you need to make sure that you have that proper disclosure in place, and buyer's agents, you need to make sure that you read the private remarks of the MLS. So what do you do if the property is not in the MLS? Well, if the property is not listed in the MLS because it's new construction and it's not at the stage where it's required to be entered, or it is not in an FMLS compulsory area, so to speak, then you buyer's agents, you have absolutely no contract to expect any commission from the listing broker when you are the procuring cause of sale and your buyer buys that commission. So what do? Well, GAR has another form. And that form is GAR Form F101, Co-op Commission Agreement, to be used prior to showing. It looks very much like the instructions to closing attorney, but this is an agreement for commission that the seller's broker is to pay the buyer's broker before the buyer ever sees that property. And again, if the property is not in an MLS service and you don't have any, you agents working with buyers, there's no contract, there's no contractual expectation to receive any commission. So this would be the form that you would use. Again, F258, Co-op Commission Agreement, to be used prior to showing. So now what about if a couple more scenarios. Number one, a buyer just drives by a house. The listing agent happens to be there. The buyer says, I want to see the house. The listing agent says, well, of course, I'll show it to you. That's what the seller hired me to do, is to show and sell their house. Listing agent asks the public buyer, are you working with an agent? And they say, well, yes. You listing agents, couple things. You probably should pick up the phone and call the buyer's agent and let them know that you're going to show them the house, let them know what the deal is with the commission, if there is an alteration of commission. Number two, if a public buyer does inform you, listing agents, that they do have an agent and you choose to show the house anyway without their agent being present, you might want to consider that alteration in the co-op fees, in the co-op commission, if you did not reach out and have that discussion with the agent when you are on full notice that the buyer did explicitly tell you that they did have an agent. Another thing, you buyers agents, y'all need to let your buyers know if they see a house that they're interested in, they really need to contact you for showing it. Number three, when you guys are, I don't know where my numbers are, but if you are working with buyers buying new construction, if that new construction property is not in the MLS service and your buyer just walks into the subdivision, your fee is not necessarily protected. It's protected if you've signed a buyer brokerage agreement, but you would have to collect it from the buyer. It's not necessarily the obligation of the seller, new construction seller, to pay it. Same thing, if it's not in the MLS service yet and there is no protection. Now, you on-site agents, same thing, you really have a professional obligation if the buyer tells you they do have an agent to contact that agent prior to actually engaging them. One more scenario and then we're done. What happens if we are in an extremely fast market right now? This video is being produced January 2021. What happens if you are a listing agent, you are an agent working with a seller, they sign the listing agreement or the seller's brokerage agreement, and you get a contract on it right away before it's ever in the MLS service? Well, according to the membership agreement that your broker has with, I know specifically for FMLS and Georgia MLS, if it's another MLS, you'll have to check. That listing is still due. It is still required to be listed in the MLS service, FMLS, and if your broker belongs to both, if it's in FMLS, it's also required per membership to be in Georgia MLS. So it is still required to be listed, and FMLS is due a fee, regardless if you have a contract on it prior to it ever being listed, as long as your broker is a member of FMLS and as long as the property is in an FMLS compulsory area. So just a couple of comments on commission and co-op commission and a couple of things to be aware of in practice, and specifically the actual fill in the blank that the Georgia Association of REALTORS has made on the seller's listing agreement or seller's brokerage engagement to help you guys remember that you must describe all of that and get the seller's blessing on that or approval or agreement on that before you alter a co-op commission. And, you know, there are some sellers that might not go for it. A seller could say, look, listing agent, I hired you to sell my house. I want you to entice another agent broker that's already working with the buyer to bring them. I don't want you to, I don't want to use the word penalize, but I don't want you to alter their commission less and prevent them perhaps from showing my house. Now, also, you guys know from license law, you may not show a house based on the co-op commission you're going to get. So lots of thought for discussion, lots of points for discussion, lots of issues to have with your broker. Again, you might need to check with your broker to see what your broker's policies are on your commission, altering commission, co-op fees, commission, so forth and so on. But love to hear your comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. And we go into a lot more on this discussion, including a full lengthy discussion on variable rate commission in the 3-hour CE class hosted by Maximum One Companies. offered through the Georgia Real Estate Academy, and the links are below. Thank you so much for watching. Dana Sparks, broker of Maximum One Greater Atlanta Realtors, satisfying your needs with service, innovation, and education.